Hi, I'm Ken. Today we're going to go over biblical mentoring on money, keys to financial success. I'm going to start with an overview of what I have done myself. It has worked well for me. We will see whether you can apply any of it in your own life. Then I will go over some Bible verses on the subject, and then I will go over budgeting. I'm anticipating having 4 sections in this. This is section 1. Okay, the first thing you do in getting a handle on your money is to make a list of everything you're spending money on in a month. Figure how to reduce the cost of the items or identify items that should be eliminated. For example, a friend of mine went to Starbucks at lunch every day. Finally, he added up how much money is he spending on coffee, and he was appalled. He quit that practice. He took coffee in a thermos, whatever, but he was able to cut down a lot of money just by finding where it wasn't really needed. Okay, next, try to live below your means, not up to your means. In other words, try to have money left over. Eventually, the money left over will accumulate to the point that you can now buy with cash. You can cut down on insurance. You can borrow from your own savings, so to speak, instead of borrowing money from a bank. Seek to avoid debt financing. This is a big deal. Proverbs 22:7 says, "The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower becomes the lender's slave." In 1 Corinthians 7:23, God says, "You were bought with a price. Do not become slaves of men." Okay, so when you borrow money, you're becoming a slave. Is this thing worth being a slave for? We can go over that. Credit cards. I used to avoid the use of credit cards, but now I'm using a Visa card. I get 1% back. As soon as I see the charge show up, I pay it off, so I don't have any payment fees. I do not ever use a credit card for borrowing money for any extended period of time. They charge something like 20% interest. Incidentally, because I have applied these principles I'm giving you for the last 40 years, the only money I've ever borrowed on was for the house, and then I paid it off fast. I borrowed $600 years ago from my mom to buy a used car. The whole thing was sad. I never should have done that. God was showing me that I am not blessed when I borrow money. So that is the only money in my entire life I have ever borrowed. Okay, have a budget. I have zippered pouches for different funds. I take out of each pouch what I need, so it's a real simple system. Keep current as to your financial affairs. How much do you have in savings? How much do you have for long-term bills? Okay, if you buy a house, which is a fairly good investment typically, buy a modest house, preferably single story, I'll go over that in a bit, and pay it off as soon as possible. Possibly rent out part of the house while you live in the remainder. Buy as small a house as will suffice, and in my case, I got a small 2-bedroom house for cheap many years ago, and back then you could legally build a 10 by 12 house in the backyard without a permit. So I built several little houses in the backyard. It's really worked well for us, real well. My daughter wanted her own little place. She was in one house. My mom needed to move in. She was in another of the houses. We never felt cramped. Okay, do your own house repairs and remodeling and your own car repairs as feasible. You can learn how to do remodeling or car repair, other item repair, by searching on YouTube. Possibly a salesman in a supply store can give you some information on how to fix stuff. Okay, be skilled in a job and select a field that is meeting a pressing need in society. The greater the need you are meeting, the more likely you'll have greater pay and greater job security. Budget for a new car, buy it with cash, and do not buy collision insurance coverage. This has worked for me. The story is I bought a new Volkswagen Beetle back in the Vietnam War days, 1970. Yeah, it was a 1970 Beetle. And the insurance man said, well, the collision coverage is going to cost so much. I thought, wow, man. So I figured out how much would that amount to in 10 years. And in 10 years, that would just about buy me a new car. So never in my life have I ever had collision insurance coverage on any car. I have bought many new cars with cash, and I've never paid for collision insurance coverage. I've been self-insured. So you use your savings account as collision coverage. Buy a quality car such as a Toyota Corolla. I learned my lesson. Plymouth Acclaim went up in flames. Terrible. I won't buy a cheap car. So I buy a Toyota Corolla, and I try to buy a loss leader. That's a car that they're selling with no profit, advertising it with no profit, and that's to get you in the store, so they'll try to sell you something more expensive. The loss leader usually is a no-frills vehicle, which is actually what you want. Okay, note, the new cars almost all cars now have automatic transmissions. The new CVT transmissions are of questionable reliability. If they fail, the entire unit must be replaced, and it has to be replaced by a dealer. Expensive. Okay, that's another reason I buy Toyota. If there's going to be a risk, Toyota is the most reliable car I know of on the road. So I buy a car that's reliable and economical. Avoid needless extra features. Complexity leads to equipment failure. Used cars. These tend to be overpriced and faulty. They are being sold for a reason, and it's rarely good. When I've looked at the used cars here in my locality, I would think, wow, why not just go buy a new car? I mean, they're charging so much money, and these cars all have high mileage. That is not good. Okay, live close to work. In Titus 2:6, it says, be sensible. Only live far from work if it is really more sensible to do that. Ask advice from knowledgeable people before purchasing any item of significant cost. There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. For example, years ago, I wanted to buy a new washing machine. So I went to an appliance repair shop and I said, what should I get? At that time, it's not currently true, but at that time, the best machines were Maytag, Whirlpool, or Kenmore, which was made by Whirlpool. So I bought a Whirlpool machine, and it lasted me 25 years. It was still working, making some funny noises when I finally went ahead and replaced it. A friend of mine had bought another machine, and within like 3 to 5 years, water got through the seal in the tank, got into the transmission, destroyed it, and his washing machine was a piece of junk. So in like 5 years, he had to throw his washing machine away and buy another one. So go to someone who knows what is going on and ask them for advice. If you are going to buy something that will last 10 years or more, buy the best quality you can afford. It's going to outlast the inferior products, and it's going to give you greater satisfaction. Extended warranties. Normally, this is not a good idea because most items last longer than the extended warranty period. Like on my car, got a new Corolla a few years ago. They said, well, here's this special deal on an extended warranty. I said, no thanks. What? You don't want an extended warranty? The truth is, with a Toyota, you don't need it. It's dependable. That's my opinion, at least. Okay, the warranties are being offered for a reason. These are money makers for the seller. The exception is if you are in a high-risk situation. One example, my daughter was going to college in Canada. She got a set of new tires. They said for $28, you can get an extended warranty. We recommend it here in Canada because there's a lot of potholes, and if you blow a tire, this is really going to be in your favor. And that's basically what happened. The daughter, shortly before she was going to come back to the States, she blew a tire. She went in and they said, we'll give you a whole new set of tires and they can be whatever style you want. And she thought, oh, I no longer need winter tires here because I'm going back to the States. So they put on a full set of all-weather tires. She made out like a bandit. Normally, you get an extended warranty and you're the one that loses. You wasted your money on the warranty. Okay, at this point, we're going to go to section 2